recording? Yeah. All right. Hello. I am Laura Cox from Acupuncture and Wellness of Wisconsin, and I am here today for my first ever Skype interview with the amazing Jack Butler, all the way from mountainous Boulder, Colorado.
Yes.
So welcome. Hello, Jack.
Hey.
Welcome to Wisconsin through my computer.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for hooking this up. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So Jack and I are going to talk a little bit today about who he is and what he does and why you should come see him when he comes to Wisconsin in December. So, Jack, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick and say who you are?
Yes. So I'm Jack Butler. I have an international coaching and consulting business. I work mostly with entrepreneurs, practitioners, business owners. And the focus of my coaching is to help people be more of who they really are. And I particularly work with busy people, doers, and I invite a more relaxed and integrated way of doing yourself, of being in the world. That's a big part of the journey that I've been on over the last 6 years. And I also have strong interests in global citizenship. I travel quite a lot, and I'm very much interested in how we create a world that works for everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what I hear is that you work with business owners, entrepreneurs, high-functioning, very high-driven people that are pretty much bombarded with life and stressors and business and just crazy, and you help them balance and be even.
Yes.
And?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I specifically orient to people finding a new way of being in the world. So I don't see it as you're spinning 22 plates. Let me help you be a better plate spinner. It's like I kind of challenge the deeper architecture of people's lives to say, it doesn't matter how good you are at plate spinning, you'll always be a plate spinner. And is that the way that you want to be in the world? What has that gotten you in your life? And it might have gotten you a lot of really good results in some domains, but it probably means that it's hard to switch off. At times you feel overwhelmed. You're probably habitually overcommitted. You may have some issues holding boundaries with yourself and other people. You may locate your value in your doingness and not have much relationship with your beingness or non-doingness. And we can unpack a little bit what that means if you want. So that's my focus, is helping people find a more high definition, prioritized, loving way of doing themselves and their whole life, And I'm an integral coach, so I'm not just work or relationship or weight loss. It's like, let's look at the whole of your life and let's look at the deepest patterns, because they tend to be pervasive in most people.
Sure, absolutely. I can say just in the short time that you and I have been working together, I've learned quite a lot about myself and how I bring myself into my business. And for that, I've seen where I let my anxiety kind of get in the way of my productivity. And I've seen where I tend to focus on the what ifs, what's coming, what's next.
Yes.
And I get lost in that, so that I'm always thinking steps ahead, which is, I think, a key part of being a business owner. But I get too far ahead of myself and sometimes lose touch with the right now and the what is. So you've helped me with that.
Yes.
And we've just been coaching since the end of August, right? Something like that. So just a couple months here.
Yeah. Can I say something about that quickly?
Please do.
Yeah. So part of what we can start to notice is what is the origination point for our action. And for a lot of us, including a lot of us who are quote unquote successful, it is something like anxiety that is often driving us to do things. It's driving us to see off problems before they come. And so the discernment is, can you have, in the instance of you talking about planning, say, can you have that planning be a conscious choice and activity rather than an unconscious, I'm just slipping into planning and anticipatory anxiety? That's the leadership maturity, is to be able to discern that. Because you don't want to throw away the capacity, but you want to have the capacity, almost like an arrow in your quiver, right? That you can deploy it when you want, rather than it's just unconsciously deployed all the time.
Right. That's actually a question that I wanted to bring up this afternoon is how do you find that balance between constantly needing to plan ahead and plan for the next steps versus getting lost in that and remaining present? Like, where's the balance for someone like myself, someone who you would coach with for like a business owner?
Yeah. Well, I think it's in that discernment of what is really going on here. So if I notice that I'm anxious, I would invite people to slow down and to be with that anxiety and to notice, is there a particular thought that had it come in? It's like, because when we slow down, we can start to track more clearly, like, oh, I was just kind of walking across my office and then I had the thought like, oh, wouldn't it be terrible if the office got flooded? Right? And now I'm looking into insurance, right? Now, looking into insurance may be a very intelligent thing as a business owner. But if it's coming from this place of sort of the sky might fall down on me, or in the language of the Enneagram, which I use a lot in my work, which we've talked about, if I'm doing it from a place of hypervigilance, of thinking about all the things that could go wrong and then I'm seeing them off, right, I'm not necessarily fully present there. Like my personality, my patterns have me, rather than me noticing, oh, in all presence, love, truth, and awareness, right now would be a great time to do some planning, right? And I'm actually going to sit down and do some planning. And, maybe I look at my schedule a week out, maybe I look a month out, maybe I look a quarter out, and I start to think about what would be intelligent things to hold on my calendar or reminders to post. Yeah. That's important. But if I'm doing that sort of ongoingly, unconsciously, that's typically a place of lost presence. So that's why I ask people to get curious, to slow it down and notice what's actually happening there. Be with their experience more, track the origination point. Notice that if I get to be with my anxiety, it may, after a time, it may not go away, but it's like I start to be able to turn the volume down. Yeah. Much the same way that with our inner critic that can be really loud, we may not ever really get rid of it, but it might be that we can just really turn the volume down. And so that's what happens when people get to slow down with their patterns. Yeah,
I love that you said get curious and then be with the experience. That is maybe your new tagline. I love it. Good. So what is it that drives you to do this work? How did you get to open your own coaching consultant business, and where is the passion in it for you?
Yeah. Well, like a lot of businesses, in some ways I was the first customer. Right, so this is stuff that I've had to learn, and that I feel has me be in the world in a more fulfilling way.
Sure.
I've always been fairly opportunity-driven, go-getting, curious, insatiable learner, want to pursue the next learning or teaching or event or possibility or business idea. I think that was just native to my personality in a sense, and my life was always led in this very full-on sort of intensity. Where what I learned early was, if you put something on your calendar, typically for me, if I put something on my calendar that involves another person, it tends to happen. Like I have pretty good calendar integrity in that way. Sometimes I'd be a bit overcommitted. So my life was this sort of like wall-to-wall of like calendar appointments of all these different things and ideas. And it surprised me that people were so sort of unproactive when it came to their calendars, that there was all this sort of like white space. And then at a certain point, I think I sort of fulfilled that kind of cycle of life, which is very much like make it happen, create the reality you want, don't be limited by your past. Like, who are you and what do you want? And this is what I want, so let's go after it. Let's make it happen. Pretty agentic. In another language, you could call life happens by me, right? I create my life. And then I think in my own journey, I started to realize that that's not the only place to live from. That there's this sort of, people talk about surrender and letting go and co-creating with the universe. And initially that can sound like some sort of like new age babble. And I think when I first heard that, I was like, sounds like those new age guys. That's not really me. Like I get stuff done, Right. And then after a while, I was like, there's something in this because you notice that there's a restlessness in your being, right? There's a constant activity, there's a constant self-talk, there's a constant what's next. And that actually it's not as fulfilling as your thoughts are telling you are. It's like your thoughts are always having you on to the next thing. And if we're always on to the next thing, we don't get to fully land, arrive, enjoy, digest, metabolize, and get nourished by. And so at a certain point, I tracked that. And then my life opened up where suddenly I went from being, a full-time founder CEO to not having any role. And that allowed me the sort of space. Most people don't have maybe 6 or more months when they're not really in any role. So it was like my sabbatical. And I started to notice, wow, even when I have nothing on my calendar, I'm still pretty busy. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's now, you notice that's a state of mind, that's a state of being. And, a lot of my unfolding through different, channels of work, a lot of sort of spiritual inquiry, a lot of like journaling into my experience, slowing my experience down. I've noticed more of my underlying patterns. I'm not completely free of them, but I'm a lot more free of them than I was.
Sure.
And then you start to notice, if I'm not those patterns, if I'm not that personality, then what am I? And there's like once those ideas about who I am get the volume turned down on them, something else can also emerge, which is a bit more free and arising and spontaneous, which most spiritual traditions will talk about. But when you're in that busy mode, you sort of hear that, and someone talks about no self, and you're like, wow, strange Buddhist guy. You don't really get the deeper teaching because you're not really, you don't even have the capacity to take it on.
Yeah. Okay, so then as a business owner, when I'm looking at a new program or a coaching or a workshop or something like that, I like to set SMART goals for myself, and I know that other businesses do. And one thing that I really look at is how specifically can a program or a class or workshop benefit me and benefit my business. I know in the time that you and I have been working together, I have been able to expand my business. I just opened up a second treatment room, which has been really exciting.
Well done.
And thank you. But what kinds of other specific measurable results can you share from maybe some past clients that show just how your coaching style and your teaching style can benefit other business owners like myself? Yeah.
One of the patterns I've noticed in several clients I've worked with is it's a pattern of dutifulness and a pattern of putting other people first. So it's almost like the core way that I am in the world is that other people's needs and other obligations come first. And then if there's time, energy, money left, I might look after myself. Right? So that becomes a very constant orientation. This is a big thing because in the world of acupuncturists, chiropractors, alternative medicine practitioners, even conventional medicine practitioners, nurses, this is a very common orientation. Right? Now, what's the narrative around that? The narrative around that is something like, well, that makes me a good person. The narrative is I was raised that way, or there are so many needs in the world, or I don't matter as much, right? If you really dig into it, there's some way that in that self-other polarity, other is sort of elevated and self is somehow diminished. Or I would feel bad, or even the common one, I would feel guilty, right? And you and I know that guilt is a really energy-sapping emotion, and a lot of us are driven by it and experience it a lot. So I can't look after myself because I would feel guilty. And you look at this person, you're like, you are running around all the time helping other people. Even when you're tired and overworked, that's still where you go. So that's where I go with people because I think that's the point of maximum leverage. I'm not going to give them a strategy to take care of people better. I'm going to give them a strategy to undermine or to question deeply what has you in that orientation, because I don't think it's the deepest truth. It's an orientation, it's a persona, it's a personality, it's a role, it's an adaptive strategy from your past. There's something deeper and more and freer that you might be able to experience. So I go there. And I can talk to people about business. I grew a good business in London. I've had a staff, 12 full-time staff, and national business, and I know about that. But when people start to layer in like, oh, let's shift this strategy or that strategy in my business, particularly when it's a very person-centered business, which most of us are in, it's like if that underlying energetic is out of balance or is in a constant orientation one way or the other, then the business is typically out of balance. The life is out of balance. Your relationships are out of balance. Typically it's not like someone's showing up at work with the self-other polarity very oriented to other, but then at home they're like, oh yeah, I just completely look after myself. Typically not, right? It's like work is out of balance, and at home they're looking after their husband, they're looking after their children, they're looking after animals, they're taking care of the house. And there's something about what does it really take to nurture and nourish you that I have people, I in a loving way, I confront people with that.
Yeah.
You know? And part of that is in New Age speak is self-love. And self-love, that sounds so nice, but I'm a busy person taking care of people. Who's going to love themselves? You know, so like I think the thing that I can often do for people is I can translate some of these sort of spiritual concepts and land it in I can talk to you in a normal way, and you can't disregard my intelligence because I can talk to you intelligently about it. And that sometimes opens people up. Because it's like, yeah, this guy's not woo-woo. I think.
I love that woo. That's one of my favorite terms. Okay, so I want to be mindful of the time because I know that we're all busy and stuff like that. But you have a workshop coming up in December.
Yes,
and
I'm super excited to come out.
We have been talking a lot about business owners, but business owners aren't like the exclusive market that you work with. So who should come to this workshop aside from business owners, and how will this be beneficial to the people that show up?
Yeah. I would say anyone who notices that they are in a habitual pattern of being overly busy, overly committed, stressed, under-rested, that they don't really know, like in a deep way, how to take care of themselves, I would say consider to come along. And whatever your line of work, or whether you're in work, out of work, or whether you're a student, or whether you're in acupuncture school, because it's really high leverage stuff. Like if you can really, and this isn't something that will definitively be solved in a one-day workshop, but I can really open that door for people so that it's like, Oliver Wendell said that, a mind stretch can't return to its original dimension. There's something about awareness which is, at least in part, is curative, right? If someone can really open the door of your awareness to see the hamster wheel that you're running in and why you're doing that, there's a way that you can't fully go back. You may not know in that moment exactly how to unwind your personality and land that in a consistent way.
Sure. But
you will start to bring more awareness to it because you'll notice, I'm doing that thing again where other people are elevated and I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And
you can't turn that off. Once you turn it on, it doesn't really go away.
I know. So there's there are consequences of looking at this stuff, and it can help us to open up a little bit of capacity in our lives to be able to deal with it. But that's what I want to invite people into. So if you notice that your life is kind of got the same sort of feel to it, that you're sort of even though I did the different business this year than I was doing 5 years ago, I'm still kind of harried, and I'm kind of chasing that. I want to feel something, right? I want to feel more valued, and I want to feel like I'm successful, or I want to feel like my relationship really works. And it's maybe there's some deeper pattern that you haven't yet fully been aware of, and I can compare it to stuff like smoking. People say, oh yeah, I know about quitting smoking. It's if you really know, if you really, really know, you probably stop smoking. So you maybe don't know. You sort of know about, but you don't really know. There's a direct, I get this stuff, which is actually not cognitive. It's more like full embodiment in your being, that when you know, life just starts to show up differently. That's what I want to help people with.
Yeah, I love how passionate and engaged you get when you start talking about this kind of stuff.
Thank you. I am. I know. It's good. Hopefully passionate, not righteous. Yes.
So the workshop is called Present and Productive, How to De-Stress and Still Get Lots Done.
Yes.
And that is going to be December 9th and 10th. It's a Friday evening and a Saturday all day.
Yep.
You can attend just Friday, just Saturday, or both. So I want to make sure people are aware of that.
Yes. Yes, which includes people who might be coming from, say, Milwaukee or Chicago or somewhere where you don't necessarily have to drive up on the Friday night. So, let's make that clear.
Absolutely. And want to mention as well that we are talking about making that available online as well, so that you can remotely stream in, and we'll have more details as we work that out moving
Yep.
forward. But so the problem is that you are bombarded with life and stress and managing, and the solution is Jack Butler and the workshop that he has to offer. And I'm really excited to bring you to Kenosha, because this is not something that we have in this area. The Midwest is a very slow to evolve kind of a community. Not to say that we're unevolved, but Colorado and California gets this stuff a lot faster than we do.
Right.
And I feel like this community would benefit so greatly, and our business community especially would be able to be so much more engaged and present and successful in their business. So I'm very excited to be able to have you come to Kenosha and share what you have helped me with my colleagues and friends. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and I get something about that. Well, I'm from England, so like I know what it's. It's the accent. It's nice. It's authentic. I know what it's like to be in a culture where people, the Brits are a little more skeptical, right? They don't jump on stuff like Californians. So I have more of that kind of perspective and patience in my system. And I was out in Kenosha last month with you all, and I enjoyed it a lot. There's something about it that feels kind of homely to me. Reminds me of my homeland. So, I'd love for people to come to us. And I'll just say, we've worked pretty hard to make this affordable for people. Right, it's actually at a lower price point than some of the stuff that I've run out here, and that's my way sort of saying, hey, you may not know me, but if something that I've just said there opens a door with you, I'm like, I think it's worth the risk to come play and find out.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to mention that we have the early bird special going on until October 31st. And if you are watching this video, then you are eligible for a special discount as well if you reach out and message me. So send me a message here on Facebook, or send me an email at Laura@AcuWell Wisconsin. That's AcuWellWI.com. And I will get you some information on how to get that discount.
Great.
After the early bird special is done, so after the 31st, the price point is still really ridiculously low and affordable. So I think it's amazing that you are coming out here for such a low-cost workshop. So thank you very much. I'm Laura Cox of Acupuncture and Wellness of Wisconsin. If you want more information about Jack Butler or about the workshop that he's hosting in December, you can visit my Facebook page or go to my website, which is AcuWellWisconsin.com, AcuWellWI.com. And until next time, I invite you to live well, choose well, and be well with Acupuncture and Wellness of Wisconsin. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, good to be with you. Thanks so much.
Good. Yeah, good to have you.
All right.
All right.